You are listening to Additional Crew Film Review with Nick Meyer and Andrew Gomez. These spoiler-heavy reviews are meant for entertainment purposes only. Please do not attempt anything said on this show at home. Now sit back, relax, and listen to these two dinguses talk about a movie. Enjoy!
God isn't interested in technology. He cares nothing for the microchip or the silicon revolution. Look how he spends his time. 43 species of parrots. Nibbles for men's. Additional Crew podcast. Welcome to Additional Crew. If you heard the intro, we are your hosts. I am Nick, and with me I have Andrew.
Hello,
What's up,
everyone.
Andrew?
What's going on, Nick?
Hey, I will tell anyone who has kids this. If they have a tonsillectomy, get ready. Because my kid had a tonsillectomy about 2 weeks ago. He's doing fine. First few days were great. Then immediately after that, it was like having a newborn all over again.
Oh, geez.
Wake up every hour and a half to 2 hours. Medicine, crying. But we are through the woods. That's like my whole entire week. I've been pretty much in isolation for 2 weeks because of this. So I'm happy to be speaking to people again. What's up with you?
I'm just taking a break from packing right now, and I'm getting ready to go to Tahoe this weekend.
Sick.
Probably just gonna go on Saturday snowboarding and see where it goes from there. But yeah, definitely gonna try that out for the first time. Never gone snowboarding, but if it's anything like skateboarding, I'll be okay because I did a decent job at knowing how to skateboard, and some of that stuff still is muscle memory. So I think I can hop on to a snowboard and ride those slopes.
From my memory, it's a little different. But I think that the most important part is that you know how to balance on top of something that's moving.
True.
I remember snowboarding after skateboarding for a while for the first time, and I ate shit so many times, but it didn't hurt that bad because I knew how to fall also.
Yeah, it's important.
It was like the opposite foot, you know what I mean? Like with skateboard, you're usually skating with whatever foot you're not pushing with, or you're usually steering with that one and controlling. Yeah. With the snowboard, it's the opposite. It's almost always your back foot, from my understanding.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if it's anything like snowboarding, not snowboarding, surfing, maybe I'll be able to pick up this a little bit as well, just because surfing, I felt like you had to pick up on your back foot and put most of your weight on your back foot. So maybe snowboarding is like that too.
Yeah, I that might be it. It's just like having the element underneath you just changes things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So we'll see.
I hope you the best, man. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, thanks. I'm excited.
Before we go any further, I think I should bring up. I just want to say rest in peace to David Lynch. He passed away on January 15th. Personally, this is just me speaking. His movies meant a lot to me, and like they helped inform my taste and like show me new things that were out there. I think I remember watching like Eraserhead when I was like 15, with on a little laptop on my chest because it was like a netbook, and I had the headphones in, and I was just like blown away just by the sheer weirdness of it.
Mm-hmm.
And ever since then, I was like, okay, I need to see weird shit apparently, because that was cool. So I appreciate that, and there's so much more that can be said, but I think that I'll save most of it for next episode spoilers. I do have on a shirt that's isn't it too dreamy? This is a Twin Peaks shirt, and this comes from the Double R Diner in real life Tweety's Cafe. So definitely check them out. Twin Peaks Day is coming up next month. If you're interested in that, just look it up.
What? Twin Peaks Day?
Yeah, it's the day that Dale Cooper arrived in Twin Peaks. It's in February, and they have a gathering every year in the town of Snoqualmie, Washington, because that's where the movie was shot, or not the movie, the series. Really cool. A lot of really cool people involved.
You've done it?
I've been to Snoqualmie, not at that time, because I've never like getting up to Snoqualmie in February is like you know it's kind of gonna be a tough drive. But I've been up to Snoqualmie and gone and checked out all the places. This year I might go up for Twin Peaks Day. This is like deciding on whether or not I can spring it.
Yeah.
I'd love to because it seems like an important one. But yeah, rest in peace, dude.
Yeah, for real. Didn't really watch many David Lynch stuff. I think there is a few things I've watched, but Twin Peaks is up there as one of those shows I want to watch. Because it just has a huge following, but also I've heard just great things about it.
It's and we'll talk more about it next time.
Yeah,
I love it. I think it's not like for everyone, but it's very unique in what it brings to the table. And we'll talk more next time.
Yep.
So I won't take up too much of it. With that said, our next section, where we normally have our challenges to start us off, we're replacing our challenge. Instead, we are now doing a spotlight. So we put the spotlight on an album of our choosing. This kind of like cuts out the middleman of doing a challenge to just talk about something that you like, and instead it allows us to just talk about something we like and share it. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be something we necessarily like. We could also bring up something we really hate, but I don't expect that.
Yeah, I don't want to bring negativity into 2025.
Just like, here we go. Here's 6 minutes of me hating on this thing.
Yeah.
Yes, it just
happen to enjoy. Yeah, that's the one thing. Yeah, I like this because when you would have me listen to certain things, like I'm pretty sure I'm having the wrong opinion on this album because it's not made for me. In this way, we talk about the stuff that's made for us that we like to help you enter this new mindset of how to listen to this album, maybe.
Exactly, and I think that this will share like what you're actually feeling about an album as opposed to like trying to critically think through an album.
Yeah,
and albums can be as much feeling as they are thinking, if not way more feeling than they are thinking. So. True. Allowing someone who has had those feelings to just talk about it, usually I think it'll be better. So we're replacing this with Spotlight. Now, Andrew, you have the first Spotlight. I'm going to just let you do your thing, man. So what you got?
I won't take too much time with this, but one album that has been making the rounds this brand new year of 2025, Bad Bunny came out with an album titled Debí Tirar Más Fotos. It's a primarily, if not entirely, Spanish speaking music, like it's Latin. So it's a reggaeton. It's tropical. It's fun. It's exciting. It's sad. It has a lot of emotions, and I think with this one, Bad Bunny really took it to the top with his production. At first, you listen to it, and you're just like, you're feeling a bit off because this is not what you're used to when you listen to a Bad Bunny project. Now, I've been listening to Bad Bunny since 2017. When he came out with the song Soy Peor. No, is that what it's called? Yes, Soy Peor. And when I heard Bad Bunny for the first time, I was like, man, this guy sounds like the Spanish Travis Scott or the Latino Travis Scott, just because he was using a lot of autotune, and with his hip hop styling of reggaeton, like it's very trap style. And from where he started then to where he is now, doing like this like very rhythmic, tropical sounding album, like this album feels like a journey through Puerto Rico. Like even I watched this small interview that he was doing across the board. I saw a couple, but one that sticks out right now is the Apple Music one, and him talking about how he would just try to paint this picture of like when you start the album, you're taken to what it feels like to party in New York in the summertime. So he gives you that energy, that vibe, and so you're traveling with him to New York from where you're at, wherever you're listening to it, and then after that song ends, you're traveling to Puerto Rico, and from there it's like very reggaeton, very tropical sounding, and that's the story that I've gotten so far from it, and that's the story that he kind of envisioned. So I could see the vision, I could see the way it sounds, it feels very much like Puerto Rico because I've been to Puerto Rico as well, and I put this on and I just get taken back like to the beaches. They're some of the best beaches I've been to. Like I love Puerto Rico. I went there like in 2019 and almost got stuck in a hurricane. Like there was a hurricane rolling in, and I really needed to catch this flight because I don't know what would have happened because I think this was like the big hurricane that hit them like 5 years ago. Obviously 5 years ago, like or 6 years ago now, like 2019. It really devastated them, but I almost got caught up in that. And luckily, they were still flying. The weather was good, and I was able to get out of Puerto Rico, unfortunately. So that all being said, I sidetracked a little bit on that. It is a very fun album. Like, please, it takes a while to get into the sound, and reggaeton is very much not everyone's cup of tea. But give this one a listen because it doesn't do reggaeton like how other reggaeton artists typically try and sound. Bad Bunny, that's one of the great things about Bad Bunny is he really has pushed reggaeton sound forward in a different light, and he's a new generation, and hopefully people are learning from him and just trying to get more creative with reggaeton because man, that's the sound of partying. And if you've ever been to any cookouts with back in the day or just like even now, reggaeton music was always playing and like when I was like 15, 14 years old, way back in the day. So like it's cool to see that I'm still into this style of music, and it's just he's doing a lot for the culture. Bad Bunny is, and it's just super cool to see a pop artist like him, even though pop isn't reggaeton, he's made it so popular enough to he's like the top 10 artist, dude. Like it's impressive how genre breaking he's been. Like people across the world listen to him. So,
Yeah, he's huge, and I'm sure for that sort of like type of music and preservation even of it in like the mainstream eye, he's been like a godsend. Really, seems like just someone who's bringing it actually back out.
yeah, he's super iconic with this stuff, and I give this one super high praises. You know, strong message. Some songs that again will be hard to decode. Even I have sometimes trouble figuring out what he's saying because as much Spanish as I do speak, I don't speak too fluently. So he'll be saying certain slang words and certain words that I still got to ask my mom, like, what does that mean?
That's fair.
But no, like, todos necesitan oír esto música. Like, everyone should listen to this type of music. It just gives you a new perspective. And on that little bit more, well, before I go into that, I just want to say the tracks I think everyone should take a listen to are, DTMF, Nova York, and EOO or EO with Tiny's production. Like that's another person I wanted to shout out was Tiny. Like he's like the super iconic producer for reggaeton music, and I don't think he gets a lot of credit. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't think he gets enough credit thrown at him for being such a like prolific sound. Like he is like sure you have these artists, but without the beats behind some of these songs, like it doesn't have the same effect. And so Tiny's just been there from start, like almost the beginning of all this reggaeton, uh, old and new generation. So one quick thing to shout out is his like 2023. I'm pretty sure that's when it came out, but his solo project Data. So that's also a good one to listen to.
Now, I will say, like, as someone who has like this music's not usually in my wheelhouse a lot. I listened through this. I really like what he does in a lot of the. I didn't write down all the songs that he does this in, but the call and response. Every time he seems to do the call and response, it's really nice. And that's just when like the backup singers have like cues, and they'll start singing it whenever he says a specific word. One song in particular that I really enjoyed was the and I'm gonna slaughter this, so just get ready. It's the Baile Inolvidable.
The third
Um,
song, right?
yeah, the third track. That song is like it's a wonderful. I believe it's salsa, and it's just the background instrumentals are sick. I actually enjoyed his singing a lot in that album. I don't know what he's saying, but I enjoyed his singing, and then again the call and response just works so well in that. Um, yeah, so I don't know the lyrics. I can't talk about the depth of them or anything, but I do say that there is something in here worth listening to, even if you don't like. It doesn't sound like something you'd want to.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. Yeah, I think there's something that might be a little bit for everyone. I think if you're in the mood to try something new, give it a listen. I, that's when you have to listen to new music is when you're willing to try something new. And until then, it's kind of hard to listen to new music because I am very guilty of this of not wanting to try something new. Just depends on what mood I'm in. Like I want to go to like what I'm used to, the the easy plays. But sometimes you guys gotta challenge yourself to these new things and try it out and see if you like it. Because like, I mean, going back to uh, last review, Kneecap, um, I've grown to like one their music more and two that movie more. And so at first, I had some time, you know, to sit with them more since the review. And there's there's one song specifically that I didn't even realize was in the movie when I was watching it. Looking back, obviously, it's easy to tell, but I wasn't familiar with this song after listening to randomly on YouTube. I was just listening through some Kneecap songs, and this it's called like Art Darth. Like it's
It's
in
like
the
an Irish
movie,
words.
and in the movie, it's during the when they take lines of ketamine for the first time, and they're doing that show the first time at that pub, and they're like doing
Mm-hmm.
all those weird like dance moves, like they're on actual ket, and so like it's so funny to look at that scene again because I love that scene more and more that I watch it now that I've seen it
Mm-hmm.
maybe a couple times now since my review. Um, it's a really funny scene. It brings me back to watching Fear and Loathing. This isn't like this is by Ralph Steadman, but this is a new shirt I got from
Sick.
the Travis Scott um, drop that he did recently, and I just like that Ralph Steadman's still doing stuff. I love his artwork, but
Hell yeah.
I shout him out quickly just because like that scene reminds me of a Fear and Loathing scene in Johnny Depp and Benicio del Toro, like so much. And so yeah, it's I would go back now if I could and rechange my review. I guess I could still do it now. There's nothing like set in stone. My opinions could change. So my
Mm-hmm.
opinion on it is like higher now. I view that movie way differently. It's really stuck out to me, and I would change what I was feeling, which was like a 6.5 and 7 to like closer to a 7.5. Like it's gone up for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like the mixture of the music and the movie, like together, they just work well together. It really ingratiates them. Like I know Janice, who I'm with here, she listens to that album all the time now, and that's like not her sort of music, but she like loves it after watching that movie.
No, it's fun. It's
That's
fair. That's
mm-hmm.
fair.
It's like
Because
it's
you
on
get a
constant
sense of
rotation.
character.
Mm-hmm. It really it does it ingratiates you to them. So you're listening to this, and it's like you feel like you kind of like know who they are, even if that's just the facade. But it's a good facade if that is what they're doing. It just you feel for them more, you know. so you can connect more deeply with the music, even if you don't always know what they're saying.
And with that, I do want to shout out. I'm going to try to make this a little more quick, though. This one just quickly. Now that we're still on music, I recently re-listened to this song of Daft Punk's Random Access Memory album, Touch. If you never heard this song, give this one a listen. Dude, this song, after revisiting it again, boy, it is a journey of sound and symphonics, and it's beautiful. The song is like up there with like A Day in the Life by the Beatles. Like, that's all I have to say on that. Go check out Daft Punk Touch if you haven't listened to that song in a while, or even Random Access Memory, dude. Revisit that stuff. It's fun. I've been like really into yacht rock, and it's very yacht rock has like this weird lining between disco and rock that's so perfect for what I'm into right now. And I'm also watching a documentary specifically on the yacht, and it's got me into listening to yacht rock. It's like, fuck, this is good. Like,
dude, yacht rock is gonna make a comeback. There's this guy Daryl Johns who just released an album recently, and that's like they're calling it other things, but it reminds me so much of yacht rock. They're like, it's like a little bit of punk and a little bit of emo. Like, it's yacht rock.
You guys send me that.
I will. I'll repeat it. It's Daryl Johns if any of the listeners want to hear. But do go on.
Yeah. I'll probably be talking about yacht rock stuff more in the future for sure. Like that's where my arc is heading towards right now. So stay tuned for that. And then lastly, I've just been hella into skate videos lately. Like, it's crazy how many skate videos I've been watching, and one I want to just quickly shout out. Maybe we can post it on the Instagram later somehow. But this one YouTube video of these two skaters, it's by Thrasher magazine, the rough cut with Kevin Bacon and Felipe Nunez. Man, what a video! What a sense of inspiration. For one, the opening skate video, the opening trick, you just see this guy's determination to land this trick, and you really just go on a journey with him on that one, because he's just getting so frustrated to try to get this trick. And you could learn a lot from skaters in that their persistence of wanting to get the trick perfectly, and they'll keep at it until they land that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Is something to like really tip your hat to. Like, holy shit, these guys are determined to like fucking land that trick, and I respect that. Get that grit. And one person, especially in this video, is Felipe Nunez. When he man, I don't want to spoil it, but if you do watch this video, just know that things are possible even when adversity is in your way. Like, holy shit. Just go check it out. You'll be amazed at the tricks you'll see on Rough Cut with Kevin Bacon and Felipe Nunez.
Skate videos right now are in a good place. One thing that Dino has liked to watch is skate videos, and I don't have like a lot of names because it's usually just through social media that I'm watching them. But there are so many like ultra talented skaters out there right now that they just skate in a different way than everyone else used to, and that's like shows that creativity is alive and well.
It's just what it is too. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, you're good.
I was watching this other skate video of this guy. I was looking how they captured the video themselves, and it's impressive that like we all basically have, and it's very stupid to say, but sometimes we forget it because it's such an everyday item. We carry a crafted camera in our pockets everywhere, and I was watching somebody record video of their tricks on like a phone and a
selfie stick,
yeah, and it's so much easier. Before you would have to get like quality gear, right, to like try to follow and do tricks. Like, now anyone can skate, and I think it's just making it so much easier for that to happen, which is cool.
Oh my gosh, and the video editing software. I remember having to like edit some of the old videos we would take in our friend's backyard, and like just to get like a 2 minute long video of him doing kickflips and whatever, it was an hour of work of downloading separate clips and then cutting them, and then like it's so much easier now, and that is awesome because you'll be able to see so many different things. I mean, like, it gives people access who don't understand technology but do understand how to shred.
Exactly. And you know, technology, and this kind of like talks about, we kind of talk about it in the, they kind of talk about it in the movie. I don't really know. They talk about technology a little bit, but technology has room in the for the now, the present, and the future. But like that's good technology. That's how we should be using technology, not for this other shit. Sometimes it's crazy.
Yeah. Real quick before we move on, I listened to this album today by Ethel Cain. I think Ethel Cain's like a pop artist, right?
She's in that like singer songwriter like country indie.
Okay,
landscape.
country indie. So she came out with an album very recently called Perverts. It might have actually came out on the day we're recording this, January 17th. And I decided to listen to it because I was going through my albums, and not a lot of good stuff comes out in January. Every once in a while, but not a ton.
Yeah.
This is like one of the most terrifying albums I've ever listened to.
Oh, really?
There's like very few albums that are up there with it. Like, have you ever heard of Lingua Ignota?
Yeah.
So this is almost like, if not the exact same genre, pretty close. This is like a drone version of Lingua Ignota.
Oh, wow. Which is terrifying.
It is. It put me in such a dark mood at work, and I was like, I need to stop. I have to stop because I'm legitimately like a little spooked. I'm just throwing it out there. That is an experience album. I do want to know anyone who listens to this regularly. Like if anyone is like, yeah, I love this. This is my jam.
This calms me down.
Send me a message because I just need to know that person exists. Because I'm like, this is very interesting, and I'm in this for the experience. But I can't imagine listening to it a lot. You know, like that seems like just a dark hole to be in.
Yeah, Ethel Cain. So the album came out?
Yeah, just today, I think, actually. And it's called Perverts. And it looks like a dark, scary album. The album cover has a woman standing in a corner with her hair covering her face because she's hunched down next to a piano.
Yeah, I tried listening to her. I haven't given it another try because I'm not the biggest Ethel Cain fan, but this did not sell me on it.
No, that's fair. I've never listened to Ethel Cain. I just saw that like there was a bunch of people who were talking about the sudden heel turn that she had.
Oh,
in this album where they're like, well, her fans are going to be pissed, either that or all of a sudden dark wave, which is a new term I've never heard of.
Dark wave? You ever heard of dark wave?
Well, not in this sense. Like, is this dark wave? Is it Lingua Ignota dark wave? Because I always connected it with like the goth electronic movement.
Yeah, like I was looking through my phone to see this one person from Sacramento, I believe it's from Sacramento, or at least Northern California, Chelsea Wolfe. She came out with the album like a year ago too, and it's been getting kind of reminds me of the Lingua Ignota sound and like this gothic, you know, dark wave, as they would say, sound. It is very gothic, I feel like, for sure.
Yeah, and that's where the disconnect might be for me, is just because the sound to me, the sound doesn't feel very gothic, but the mood is, I don't know how else you could describe it other than gothic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe that's it. Maybe I'm just not connecting the dots.
As long as she's not being a poser, we're good, dude. If this is coming from a, you know.
It's intense. I mean, I think it's like the first song is about masturbating and how everybody's a pervert and everyone's dark. And I'm like, well, and each song's like 11 minutes long.
On that one, dude. Like, I'm not gonna start my album listening experience with that, dude.
I mean, you don't
that shit.
You don't have to hear the lyrics except for once every 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Fair.
So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there. That is like a genuine experience. If you want to have it, just be prepared.
There we go, Ethel Cain.
All right, so that was our first shout out, Bad Bunny, and a little bit of other discussion. So now we're gonna move on to book reviews, and this isn't like a normal thing unless it is. this is just because we both have to finish books, and when we finish stuff, we can talk about them. Andrew, hit me up with the book you finished.
Yeah, so I have in my hand The Stranger by Albert Camus. I wish I would have, wrote down the year this was published, but it won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1957. That's what it says on the back. So I read this picking it up because, I want some new philosophy on life, and nobody actually, maybe somebody did. I don't know where this book came out of. It may have been just a Google deep dive. You know, when you Google search somebody and then on the right it says people you may also know and search. I started to do that with philosophers, and this person's books just stood out mainly also because of the Nobel Prize in Literature. I don't know what the competition was that year and what they look for, but I guess this haunting novel was a new life for a generation to come. So I'm not sure if I got that from reading this. It is, a tale of absurd. I want to say occasions, like absurd moments in what is kind of a normal life, and what can lead up to a certain point, or like what things in your life can help lead up to another thing in your life that may make the difference. I don't want to spoil this book, but that's what it really felt like from start to finish. Like the decisions he made, uh, and it's really early in the book, and it's kind of like not giving away too much, but the decisions on how he reacted to his mother's passing and the way he treated his mother in some way, really set the tone for the rest of the novel and for the rest of his life throughout this 180 no 180 123 pages book. And you know trying to look through my notes. What else? I was just going off what was in my head at that moment, but let's see if I have anything else I wanted to say.
Yeah, fair.
I mean, yeah, the big philosophy points on this, or the big philosophy that kind of caught my attention, was his um, philosophical view known as absurdism. But to many, it's probably just existentialism. I like to call it absurdism because why not? It's fun. And if he coined it, I'm going to go with it. But it's very much just very existential. And just like, I was looking for stories like that. And this one, again, like I said, popped up. And so, um, yeah, I think some points I got away from this was like, life just has too many serious moments. So when you have time to let loose and like not overthink a situation, then you should do that. We all have a finite amount of time on this earth, and hopefully you enjoy those days, and on those days you choose to enjoy, be grateful and be great, be content with what you have. uh yeah, it's an easy read, uh but overall, I was even though I got some new interesting life perspectives and choices from having learned from this, I'm not sure if I'll go back to it. And I don't know. It was an okay book overall.
Now, you said this was Albert Camus, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Camus, but everyone says Albert Camus. He's like an Algerian writer. I don't know.
I'm not sure. I will tell you this sounded really familiar, and I'll tell you why I've heard of this before. It's because it is the basis of the song "Killing an Arab" by The Cure.
Damn it.
And that's like one of my favorite Cure songs that they're no longer allowed
Really?
to play because people did not understand the reference material. Robert Smith has talked about like how much of a shame it is that song was used in post 9/11 America. But Killing an Arab is a sick song by The Cure. Like, I love that song.
That's why it's called Killing an Arab. Yeah, that makes sense because this is like another turning point in this book, and that's what he's referencing. Is
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Oh shit! Okay, I gotta listen to that song because I've been into The Cure lately. I listened to Disintegration again. I revisited it, and it clicked. I didn't click the first time I listened to Disintegration, but man, I listened to it this week. It fucking clicked.
Hell yeah. I hope you get that moment also with Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, because I love that album. But it's like it doesn't hit until it does. But if the easiest way to find this song is YouTube, because I don't think it's on Spotify anymore. There's a collection called Staring at the Sea. Like, it's all of their early singles.
Yeah.
And I highly suggest looking for that because it's a collection, but it's still one of my favorite albums of all time. Like, every song on that is probably like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. That's part of the reason why I love The Cure so much, is that album. It just hits. But it's a different version of theirs than Disintegration. But listen to Killing an Arab. It's more of their, like, they sound more punk in that song. But Robert Smith is just, he's very, I think he's pretty aware of what he's saying in the lyrics, and that, like, really hit him wrong when this one was used so incorrectly. Because, of course, the song's about killing an Arab, which happens in the book, but it's not like this celebration of killing an Arab. It's just like confusion.
Yeah, I would want to hear what he wrote just to see what his perspective on that moment. And maybe that's why it's just like this book, and with a lot of books sometimes they're open to interpretation. So maybe he was just leaving. There's room for interpretation on how that whole scenario went down. But I'm interested to check that out. So yeah, remind me after the pod.
For sure. Oh, heck yeah.
But yeah, The Stranger, worth a read, but not up there with my top, but good read.
Fair. All right, so you're done with that one?
Yeah.
Just want to make sure before I
pivot.
So I'm gonna jump in with my book review. This is not a classic book. I don't have a physical book because it's on audiobook. You know, I just read these things through listening. And listeners out there, if someone can send me a message telling me what you call it when you listen to an audiobook, because I keep accidentally saying I read the book, and I don't think that's right. but bear with me. I know that is probably wrong if I say it. So it's The Queen by Nick Cutter. So Nick Cutter is like a modern horror author. His most famous books are The Troop and The Deep, both of which are phenomenal. He also has Little Heaven, but this is his newest. It came out, I believe, in October 2024, excuse me. And it's got just a lot of body horror, different situations, but it's also a character study of two teenage girls growing into adulthood and trying to like leave their place behind and what that means. It's told through the horror that is happening in the story as well. If you've listened to Nick Cutter before, like, don't expect a huge change in stylings. Like, I found that now that I've listened to a few of his books, you can definitely tell it's him, and he's got his own voice, but it doesn't change much from novel to novel. Oh, something's yelling at me.
Someone's trying to activate your Bluetooth or something.
Okay, well, if it happens again, I'll fix that. But if not, then we're good. But anyway, so it's this like middle ground of a book where the character development is okay, but not phenomenal. The story is okay, but not phenomenal. And the horrifying parts just don't hit like they did in The Deep and The Troop. Basically, this feels like a book made to fill out a contract obligation. It's not bad, but it's also not breaking any walls. I do recommend Nick Cutter in general if you like horror literature. Like I said, the Troop and The Deep, those are both very good. My personal favorite being The Deep, but The Troop is also just like a very interesting novel. This is one I would recommend if you don't like horror or if you don't like Nick Cutter already. This is like, do you want more of it? Come get it. If you don't, and you're trying to find something new, go to those other ones instead for sure. I'm not gonna rate it. I think it's arbitrary for books to give it a rating. But yeah, it's 5 out of 10. It's just okay. Like if you want more Nick Cutter, if you know this, or if you're like looking for horror literature that can get kind of messy, kind of expletive, but I don't think this one pushes it like all the way to the limits. You like this? It's not splatterpunk, but it's also a little bit more than a regular, less like spooky story.
You say splatterpunk?
Yeah,
As a genre?
splatterpunk is an extreme horror literature genre. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jack Ketchum.
Ash Ketchum? No, Jack Ketchum. What is that?
Jack Ketchum is an American author. He did The Girl Next Door, and a whole selection of other novels as well. But The Girl Next Door is easily his most popular. But splatterpunk is just like a genre where it's as gory as it can be in a book, which I'm trying to tell you a really good version of this, but I think Jack Ketchum is like the only one I can think of. Other than that, a lot of them are like edgelords. Just being honest, not my favorite genre, but it is a genre that's out there. I do have like a couple books on my listen list that I haven't gotten to yet that are this genre, like Aaron Beauregard. Sounds like a very regal name, but he apparently makes books that are just about like people dying in weird ways. I'm trying to figure out if I can find something deeper from these.
Yeah.
So far, I have not, but such is life. The horror literature, like it kind of like Nick Cutter's books. They kind of hit the same spot as like Stephen King books. You don't necessarily find deeper meaning in them, but they are entertaining while also providing you like a actual character development and story. But I don't know, like I just like horror shit,
Did they make it into a movie?
For this,
that be Stephen King-esque movie making.
He could. I think they're trying to make the Deep into a series.
That's why Hollywood gets all their ideas is from fucking books nowadays.
I mean, that's the only there's where else are they going to get them? These writers in Hollywood don't seem to have too many unique ideas. They did make a movie for his book, The Breach. I don't recommend that movie. It really frustrated me. Because it was just so poorly done. And the Breach, the book, was it was just better done. Like you get to the part where there's like creepy things happening and it just looks so stupid. I believe Slash produced and made all the music for the movie though, so that is funny at the very least. And I'm talking about Slash, the guitarist. But I think that his books have like genuine potential. Like if they make a movie for the troupe, I think that could be a great movie. However, it's going to need to be done by someone who can do special effects that aren't CGI, because there's too many opportunities for bad CGI to ruin these ideas. And if you watch The Breach, you can see what I mean immediately. Yeah, so check out Nick Cutter in general. I do like his work a lot. If you want horror novels, if you don't like The Troop or The Deep, don't keep going. Stop there. But if you do like those, you can keep going. I'd recommend Little Heaven next. And then you can go to The Breach, you can go to The Queen. They're all kind of, they all start kind of, feeling out like a little bit of the samey. Which isn't a great review for the book, but it's not terrible either.
Dude, when I'd asked you if there was a movie made about it, that sparked my curiosity to see if anyone made a movie about The Stranger, and there is a movie called The Stranger. It's based off the novel, so I might check that out to see how it plays out.
I mean, if you took all the time to read the book, what's an extra hour?
Exactly. It's like I could get this all bow tied and looking nice.
It does hurt sometimes though if you've read a book and you're like, this could actually be a really good movie, and then you watch the movie and it sucks so bad.
Yeah.
That did happen with The Breach. It was like, this has really good ideas, and then I watched it and it was like, holy shit, they just forgot
Execution.
all of the good ideas. They forgot all of them, and they're just like, we're gonna do this thing that's kind of related. Speaking of kind of related, you ready to move on?
Let's
Hell
move
yeah.
forward.
Okay, so we do have a movie review for y'all today. It's about a young boy accidentally joining a band of time-traveling dwarfs as they jump from era to era looking for treasure to steal. I'm, of course, talking about Time Bandits from 1981, the legendary Terry Gilliam film that's debatedly a family-friendly movie.
Is that what it says, or is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. I've
Yeah.
read people asking if it was a kids movie, and like no answers were actually given. They're all like, "Well, maybe."
I had first. Okay. Again, I split this movie up like 3 different times. Like, I started for the first 30 minutes. Like, oh, this involves like a 9-year-old, and so like, or a 10-year-old. I don't know. I'm not sure if they give the age of this kid, but like, as a kid, you want to watch another kid on screen because like you could be like that kid because like I am a kid. That's a kid. He's having kid adventures. Well, I'm not quite sure if the kid adventures are quite, kid friendly because not even halfway. I think like the first 20 minutes, even 30 minutes, he travels over and sees Napoleon, and it's always crazy to me. And I didn't mean to like sidetrack what you were saying about like it being a kid movie, but just quickly, dude, isn't Napoleon kind of like a war criminal at some point? Like, it's so crazy that we could just throw Napoleon in a film and kind of like make fun of him, and like even a kid film,
Yeah. Well, I think with Napoleon, it had just he was at that cusp of like, yeah, he tried to conquer Europe, but like it was 200 years ago, so we'll drop it.
Is it with enough time you could kind of like he wasn't that bad, like, but if you told the people who were going through Napoleon, like, dude, he ravaged my town. Like, I still know people who have dealt with Napoleon.
I mean, and maybe we got different reads on this. I actually thought that they did not give Napoleon a lot of respect in this movie. I thought they were just like, oh, he only
No,
wants
no,
things
no,
because he is short, and
no,
that's
no,
the
no. I
only
don't
thing he
think they're
cares
paying
about.
respect to this man at all by any means, because like they made it such like a center point of his character. Like that's all he was. Like, I'm short, and I gotta laugh at people who are shorter than me because it makes me feel taller. And I get it. Like, they're not paying him to be like this cool dude at all. But what I'm trying to say is like them just being able to throw him in movies, like like it's like throwing like Attila the Hun in a film, and but I guess with enough time you could throw any kind of, I would imagine he destroyed villages, he pillaged, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm not a history buff, but that's
Yeah,
the only
yeah.
way it makes sense to
But
me.
no, I only mean because it just brought this like idea in my head, like, man, with enough time, could certain other world leaders that are viewed evil in our time, in 200 years, they'll make a movie about those people and like put it in a funny, light way? Because with enough
Yeah.
time.
Um.
That all being said, I'm not.
mhm.
That's an element that's gonna go over a lot of kids' heads. That's more for the adults than the Napoleon part. And then also, there's a moment where like there's a person in the background who's hosting the puppet show, putting on the production for Napoleon, and he feels like his life is at stake, and he gets so depressed or whatever. Like he minds putting a noose like around his head, like they're showing like suicidal ideas in a kids film, which
Mhm.
wouldn't not necessarily kid friendly.
I mean, like the whole idea that he's just making jokes about the heights of the people and like understanding that Napoleon was a short guy. This is the one thing where I'm like, it doesn't actually feel like a kids' film, is because the kids don't have this intense knowledge of these specific things. I mean, I okay, I'm gonna say maybe they did in 1981, but that's only because I wasn't there. I have to doubt that in 1981 kids were like, yes, Napoleon was very short and he had short man syndrome, and that's why it was funny. I just can't imagine. So that I agree with you on that. Like it's not really kid friendly stuff. It felt more like a Monty Python movie at those points to me. I will say, just because we're talking about the Napoleon scene, it is so nice to see Ian Holm acting in a movie where he was alive.
And it's fitting to this character. Well, yeah, I'm not sure. That's another thing, and I don't mean to get like, I'm not trying to go like all weird with it. I'm just curious, like back in the day, I wonder if they could make a film like this today and how they would do it.
Well, okay, so I don't know, because I think that movies like Hot Shots and like whatever that funny movie with Val Kilmer where he was a secret agent during the this sucks. I will move on. But there's Hot Shots, Airplane, Naked Gun,
So
the Val
yeah,
Kilmer
for sure.
movie. Like those movies were like the closest you get, and you could still in Hot Shots. I remember they were talking about Saddam Hussein when he was still alive and making jokes about him, right? So I don't see movies like that at all now, though. Like just those absurd comedies that are off the wall. I don't really think they get made. Like I watched Y2K and that was close, but it wasn't about real life people except for Fred Durst.
Yeah, I'm wondering like a film like this, if it can get to theaters and sell. Like who would you sell this to? This is such an absurd film that deals with like married characters, but their characters are hard to really like not understand. They're just trying to have fun, and like maybe they got tired of what they were doing, uh, hanging out with the Supreme Being, because it sounded like he worked with them. He worked for them, right? By the end of the movie, these Time Bandits.
Yeah, they were like they were doing trees. They were building trees for him, and then when they fucked that up,
Is that what it was?
yeah, they screwed that up, and they made like a 600-foot tall tree, and the Supreme Being was like, "That was stupid. You're relegated to fixing our holes." They took the map of where all the holes were. They tried to take advantage of it instead. And I think that's like the idea of the holes was just like this is where the Supreme Being had messed up the world because he made it too fast.
Yeah, because I
Um,
don't remember how they stole the map, but it sounded
yeah,
like he explained it pretty well.
yeah, and I mean, so okay, I actually watched it with my kid, with my 4-year-old, so he's really little, and I'll tell you this: like during some of the more fantastical scenes, he was into it, but it was all about the imagery and the visuals. It was nothing about the story because he did not get the story at all. He would ask me like who that person is. He's like, who's that guy? And I'd be like, oh, that's the Supreme Being. And he'd be like, ah, whatever. And I'd be like, and then he's like, who's that guy about evil? And he's like, ah, whatever. He's got a weird hat, you know.
Yeah, he had
They
a lot of weird stuff going on.
they love the giant though, the giant that came out of the sea.
And that part confused me because didn't the one giant who had like a bad back and they were trying to help him with his bad back and they tricked him and they dumped him off on the side of the fucking whatever, the wherever they were, like ocean, but the ocean wasn't that deep because he could stand in the ocean pretty easily. He was he standing in the ocean?
I don't think he was. Not that I
No, he wasn't,
remember.
but he blew the ship away, and somehow the ship blew into a whole new plane, or did it blow into like the same world? And
That
ship
is a good
crashed into the
question. Because if
huh?
he could blow the ship away, how could it also be attached to the head of this giant?
Yeah. When did that? There was no like explanation, and obviously this movie is so
Hmm.
everywhere that too much explaining would kind of defeat the purpose in this absurd film. Maybe it's just supposed to be like a kid's dream that just goes from one dream to the other dream, and none of this really makes any sense because it's coming from a kid's head. But I mean, he was doing a lot of research. He was telling his dad or his mom and dad like, "Oh, there's did you know like there was like 6,000 Greek soldiers in like this whatever war, and they don't care. They just wanted to know more about the I
Slap
had
chop.
a, the what?
The slap chop.
No, well, it sounded like the slap chop, dude. It was the hold on, it's here because they made it a big thing in the beginning. Like,
Came back at the end too.
The Moderna Designs ad for the Moderna Wonder Major All Automatic Convenience Centerette. What a mouthful! But yeah, that I watched this movie once, all the way through, and I was
Mhm.
watching a little bit to recap today, and I didn't realize that that was a callback from the beginning because obviously this is the problem when you watch a film and you stop watching it halfway through, you kind of forget some things that had happened beforehand, and that was one thing I forgot because again, like I said, they do a callback to the Moderna ads because it this is what kind of tricked the Time Bandits
Mhm.
into like
Mhm.
getting lured into the evil one's hands and getting trapped in that cage. But um, yeah, I completely didn't even catch that off the first watch until I rewatched the first half. Like, huh? They they used the ad.
They did. I think that it was like a clever usage of the ad. Now, speaking of what you were just speaking about, I do my understanding of this film, especially because of this the setting in the evil one's lair, is that this was definitely part of Kevin's subconscious. Like this was like some weird dream slash imagination hybrid that was going on with him and within him, and it was just like he's this bored suburban kid whose parents don't really like pay attention or care about the same things he cares about, and he's just dreaming of something so fantastical, so crazy that it brings him out of his setting
Mundane
that he's
world.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah, and like that's where the whole entire film takes place of him just going through all these things he's been thinking about, all these things that have been on his mind. This is like his escapism from that world, right? Um, and of course it's not ever clear about that, but I feel pretty comfortable saying that because like with the knight that showed up in the first night, okay, the knight on a horse who showed up on the first night that Kevin was sleeping, they showed the picture on the wall afterwards, and it's like, oh, he was thinking about them as he fell asleep. And then on the second night, where he sleeps and he goes through all of these different situations, it shows all of his toys scuttled everywhere. And he had the Polaroid camera and he had been thinking about a lot of different things. Now, something that refutes that is the fact that the Polaroids at the end still do show the pictures of what happened. So you're left with a little bit of that twist, like, but did it really? We'll never know.
yeah, because Sean Connery is the fireman, dude.
A cool piece of trivia about that is Sean Connery made the decision to be the fireman. He wasn't originally written as the fireman, but he was like, I should be the fireman also.
This will really confuse people because they're gonna wonder why I'm in two places at the same time. Am I the second or the 15th generation version of me?
Right. It's like, is that what we're to be believing? Is that it's just like reincarnation is just bringing the same person back
Exactly.
over and over again?
Reincarnations that were like, how many generations of us look like us back in the day? We're so many generations from our third or fourth. That
It
could be the Sean Connery's generation.
and it's interesting. The hard part for me is that there's usually two parents involved, so like I feel like the other genetic side has just gotten screwed over in this scenario. It's like, oops. Um, Speaking of that, hey, when his parents blew up when they touched the evil,
Yeah,
was this a really negative ending for Kevin?
I would
Because
say so. It was very sad and cruel.
like he gets through all this and he comes back and he's like, "Oh, parents, this still sucks." And then they blow up and it's like, "Oh, it's so much worse now."
He's gonna become Batman at that point.
But if what happened was really true, the Time Bandits screwed over Kevin so hard by taking him from King Agamemnon's house, who was like, "I will be your new dad. I will raise you like my son. You are clever, and you will be the prince, and you will take over my kingdom." And the Time Bandits steal him back, screwing him
Life
over,
was
and then
good
his
for him
parents
there,
blow.
dude. Fruit was getting cut in half from being from inside of a pig. There he had dancers. He got fresh robes. Life was good for Kevin, and then the Time Bandits, yeah, they really screwed him over, and for what? What did they learn?
I, they just I guess like in some weird way they were like trying to save him, right? Because if you look at it like how he shows up in, I don't know where they were, in the desert with the
So wait,
Minotaur dude over his head about to smash him, right? He was in legitimate danger, but they didn't stop to think about talking to him. Maybe that's because they had such a time crunch, of like, yeah, I got to get in and get out of these places really quick. But I
they were
before they got to the Titanic, did they even give him the opportunity, or did they just completely disappeared as soon as they grabbed him, right? So,
yeah, they couldn't swim, dude. It was pretty funny to see them try to swim. They just
dude,
they flailed like magic carps.
the other one is like, I can't swim.
Yeah, I felt bad. Like they're not. I mean, I won't say, but it looked awkward. I felt bad for them. Like
But
holy shit, and they were
here's
living the high life. Like every time they're like put in these scenarios, they're like, "Life's good. What else do you want from me, kid? Look at this. We got fancy tuxedos. Got the map."
I did enjoy that. Where it's just like, nah, dude, we're good. This is it. This is the
And I
nice
don't
stuff.
and I don't know how they're finessing all these people to give them what they want. Again, is this a dream? Because did Kevin's dream become a reality, or is he still in the dream by the end when his parents blow up? Because then reality or his dream entered into reality world, and that's crazy. How did that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Because
Is
maybe
he still
that's
in
it.
the dream? Is Kevin still in the dream?
Maybe that's the actual answer. Is he's just in the dream at the end. It's not a negative ending. It's just to show that he never woke up. At least not yet. One thing I want to point out is some of the actors of this Time Bandit crew are far more famous than you'd think. So like, let's look at
Time
Jack
Bandits
Purvis.
himself?
Jack Purvis played Wally. He was the guy with the beard who was one of the guys swinging from the cages at the end. He was actually in Dragon Slayer also, just like our friend Richard. He was also in Star Wars. He was the Chief Jawa. He was in Star Wars Episode 5, Episode 4, The Dark Crystal. He's in Brazil. He played Tebow in Episode 6 of Star Wars. It's like, if you look at some of these actors' histories, it's pretty wild. Also, something that shocked me when I was looking through this, just as a side note, the guy who played Vermin, Tiny Ross is his name. I don't know that his parents gave him that name. I would guess they didn't. Um, he was okay. He was born in 1910, so this movie came out in 1981. This guy was 71 in this movie.
Damn.
He didn't look 71,
No.
at least not to my mind. And so Tiny Ross is the guy who, excuse me, I don't know how to describe it, man. He's got big beard, shaggy hair, which is it's a few different ones of them, but he's not wearing the glasses. And anyways, his name's Vermin, Tiny Ross. Look him up if you want to see who exactly he is. But he's
They were
71 in this movie.
He was my favorite. Wally and Vermin were my favorite bandits of
Oh,
the crew.
Wally was the best, man. Like, I was like,
Wally was
I don't
so
know what it
funny.
is. Yeah, I was like, I don't know what it is, but I want Wally to just take over this crew, please.
Yeah, because I wasn't the biggest fan of Randall. He got kind of his something about his voice just got kind of under my skin.
Something that is, I think, worth noting for Randall is that being able to hold a monocle in your eye like that cannot be easy.
Yeah, true.
That is a legitimate skill.
There was a couple things in the film that like I wonder if they just said like we're keeping that in because there was times where like he dropped stuff or like he like hurt himself or something. I think there was a time where he like was holding a cup and the cup just fell off his hand. I wonder if he did it by accident or just like they had wrote that in the script like, oh yeah, we want you to do that because it looked very much like he fumbled, but he kept it going, the scene going as like nothing happened. But there was times like that, and then one scene specifically, I wonder how many takes they did or they did it in one shot because this would be so annoying. Where there's a part when like the evil one is looking at them all fighting in the swamp, and them like all fighting in the swamp. Like I can't imagine that scene playing out numerous shots. Like you would want to do that once and like not have to do it again because like you're obviously getting wet the entire time, and it looks really cold and damp. Some of these
Yeah.
things look really cold and damp.
Well, okay, I'm gonna make some assumptions, so I'm not claiming these as facts. Terry Gilliam was a member of Monty Python's Flying Circus, right? As you can see by the cast and the crew, and almost like the comedy styling of this film was very Monty Python-esque. I would guess that, and this is a guess, that he likely didn't do a ton of different shots because I think that spontaneity and maybe even a little bit of like ad-libbing was probably loud. I know what that is. So Andrew, if you want to talk for a second, I'm gonna go shut it off.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I haven't seen many Monty Python style anything. I want to because it's like one of those things that's commonly referenced in comedy, and to not know some of the things that people are referencing when it comes to like high claim comedy, like Monty Python, and like the Life of Brian, and what's the other one that Monty Python does? Maybe you know, Nick. The Holy Grail. I haven't seen that one. The Life of Brian and the Meaning of Life. Like I haven't seen many Monty Python, but I wanted to check out their stuff for the longest time, and so I know this is like a weird way to get introduced to Monty Python, but this is just like one of those things that was just available. I was like, oh, I'm gonna check this out. But I do want to check out the Holy Grail and all the other Monty Python stuff.
So I've watched all of them. Not all of them. I shouldn't say that, but I've watched a lot of them. I think that my favorite was Life of Brian. I think it tackles a subject that was probably very hard to tackle at that time period. And it talks mostly about like God and like false prophets, and maybe, you know, like how a prophet can be like backed by people just because they want to assume that something's happening. And it does it in a funny way that is actually endearing. I don't really think that like Monty Python you can go wrong with. At this point in time, it's pretty inoffensive, and I don't mean that in a way to say that like it's not funny. I just mean that like you've seen worse things, so like you're not going to get offended by it, and you're going to find something funny because they're just really good at visual and situational humor. And I would say that that carries over on this. Like, you want to talk about something that this movie did really strong, in my opinion, is the visuals of the film. Even if I thought like maybe it could have gone a little bit more fantastical, if I'm just looking at what it did, the costume design was awesome.
Yeah,
throughout.
I agree with that. Yeah, good mention.
Mm-hmm. Like the Minotaur, his helmet looked disgusting.
Yeah.
Like,
and for the longest time, I thought it was like a person who had cut out a head and was using it as like a warrior's mask. But no, he was actually finding the Minotaur, like the mythical creature.
It did look like someone had cut off a head though. Like that, if you told me that they'd got the mask through some version of taxidermy, I would not be shocked. And that's to their credit. And like everything looked very. It was just all really well done, and I guess that this would be something to do with having access to all this stuff from Monty Python, right? Because I'm sure Terry Gilliam's like, "Hey, can I use this stuff?" And they was like, "Sure, dude, whatever you want." Because, you know, Michael Palin's in this, John Cleese is in this, and if I'm forgetting someone else who's in Monty Python, let me know. But those two were also in Monty Python.
John Cleese. Oh, Robin Hood. He was great, dude. Robin Hood was so funny in this film.
John Cleese is he's a treasure in whatever film he's in, honestly. Like, I don't know. I always think of Rat Race, which is not that great of a film, but even that he was good in. I don't know if you've ever seen Rat Race. If you haven't,
I've seen it once with John Lovitz and a couple other.
Yeah, it's a stupid.
It was good. It was like one of those like Comedy Central movies that would always come up.
It was
movie too.
It was one of the first movies on VHS that I owned that was like my movie.
Yeah,
it's not my family's movie, so I watched a shit ton of that movie. Anyway, but John Cleese is fantastic. I actually watched like the whole series of Fawlty Towers when I was in high school, which is like his follow-up to Monty Python, the British television one. Also funny. So I like John Cleese a lot, and he was great as Robin Hood. I honestly wish he had more roles.
Yeah, John Cleese and Sean Connery were my favorite in this whole movie.
Mm-hmm. Sean Connery was such an interesting character, I thought, because like he was this excellent king who was definitely about to lose a fight if Kevin didn't show up. Still ends up winning, but clearly his wife hates him, and he's ruling over. I can't make assumptions, but I would say that the people he's ruling over look like they had nothing to do with Sean Connery.
You look like a conqueror.
He
You look
definitely.
like you guys are all my prisoners, but we're here just to celebrate you because if we don't, we're gonna die.
Right, so I'm like, he's portrayed as this like fantastic like individual, but is this just like the colonizer version? Like we went from Kneecap to watching the British colonizer being portrayed as a hero.
Yeah, he was touted as some hero and like to be celebrated, but little did we know he was just like a conqueror.
Still, though, Kevin definitely should have stayed with him.
Yeah, his life would have probably been a lot better knowing the end now that we know his parents blowing up, which, again, I can't undersell how funny, at the same time, weird that was. Like, I was like, oh shit, the movie's over. Like, that's so weird to end your movie with your parents blowing up from touching an evil rock.
Yeah. It's very strange. I guess I should point out I did read this too. Like King Agamemnon, and I'm certain I'm pronouncing that wrong also. And his wife, him and his wife in actual history did end up killing each other.
This is a real person, King Agamemnon.
From what I read, unless I'm just reading some fake made up history, but I don't think that's it. It's Greek mythology.
Okay.
So
yeah, it makes sense because he's fighting a minotaur.
Mm-hmm. And then, so him and his wife ended up killing each other. So maybe it wouldn't have been a better place to stay, despite all I can think of. Although, even then, both his parents would be dead, and he would have had more time with them. Maybe not the best plan.
Yeah, there's no winning for Kevin. This was always his life. This is what maybe the Supreme Being is trying to tell you. You can't avoid the pains of life.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's the card you're dealt. The Supreme Being is a like humor, dude. He likes to test his subjects. He likes to get humor. Why did he create evil? Something about having a balance of free will.
I like they did not give a great answer on that one. They're like, well, he created evil because of free will. Exactly. I will not explain further.
Because now it's not my fault. It's your guys' fault.
Mm-hmm.
You guys didn't do it.
After having watched Dragon Slayer so recently, talk about the Supreme Being, watching Ralph Richardson show up so clean shaven was kind of shocking because I was just like, I don't know, with Dragon Slayer I was just expecting him to have that nasty like mustache.
Ralph Richardson is in
he was the wizard in Dragon Slayer. Ulrich.
Is he? He's the one who comes from the river. They toss his ashes and that's him. Ulrich. Yeah. What the hell, dude? We're getting so much crisscross between our movies. That's
apparently
insane.
Dragon Slayer and Time Bandits came out the same year and had so much crossover. It was ridiculous. Because it wasn't just Ralph Richardson either. It was also, as we said, Jack Purvis, who played Wally. He was also in Dragon Slayer. They both just came from the same boat. You know, they're like, all right, let's go back to Britain. Let's make this movie.
That's funny.
So what in your opinion are some of the strengths of this movie?
I think
and I don't mean to throw you.
Not the bandits per se. Although I like some of the bandits, not all of the bandits. Some of them can be kind of goofy and they're just like, I don't know. But that Robin Hood, John Cleese, Sean Connery, their acting was really good when they were on screen. Especially John Cleese. I can't understate how much I enjoyed that Robin Hood scene. They're so funny and so like playful and unique.
Little clever bit too, having stolen all that stuff and then accidentally going to Robin Hood, who just immediately distributes it to people.
Exactly, exactly. It was just such a funny bit, and I like that scene a lot. The strengths of it are just kind of. I'm just gonna piggyback off of what you said. Like the costumes in this are just so amazing, and I was reading what you had posted on Instagram about the low angles. I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
catch that, but a lot of the shots are well done. Um, the pacing of it could be kind of slow, but overall the shots themselves do have a lot of character and a lot of like bright moments, and it's a fantasy adventure, so like there's a lot of light and there's a lot of darkness. Like it balances that all very well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it is a very comedic fantasy adventure. So I would say it does that very well.
Mm-hmm. It gives that sense of
Um,
fantastical.
but what about yourself? Do you have any?
I do. I won't really touch on the points I've already touched on, but I will say like I thought that some of the set pieces were really cool. Again, I thought the giant, even though maybe it didn't make a lot of sense, it just looked really cool. It almost reminded me of like something you'd hear about in, like the Odyssey, and it was not a direct correlation, but I thought it was cool. I really enjoyed that like quick wit to the movie that it had, and that's just in like the way it set up the scenarios all lent themselves to having a joke about it. So, like they go from Napoleon to to Robin Hood, right? So they
Yeah,
stole all this stuff and they have to give it up immediately. And they go from that area.
and before you jump to the next thing, I'm just remembering the comedic part of like when Robin Hood tells the poorest to come in, and they're like hobbling over the bridge and coming to pick up the like treasure. And every time Robin Hood hands out a treasure, one of Robin Hood's goons or whatever
Mhm.
decides to punch him in the face shortly after. That's pretty funny.
It,
Like
it
there's
was pretty
funny
funny.
bits in this movie. Like
It, it plays well into that like Monty Python sort of style of humor where you're kind of like, you can parse it out and it will make sense, but it doesn't really, you don't need to. It's also physically, it's just funny.
yeah, it's a great physical comedy. It's like
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't make any sense, but it's just funny to look at.
The whole like Michael Palin, which he played Vincent, and Shelley Duvall romance going throughout it was silly, and it kind of like helped tie together scenes, and also that like generational thing you were talking about. It seemed like they kept ending up together. But if they are the same person through generations, that might mean a lot of
A
like
problem.
inbreedings going on.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So like them dropping on a boat, a cruise ship that looks so nice, like it's gonna be so great, and then it ends up being the Titanic. And then that was pretty funny. Like, so I really enjoyed the quick wit and like the idea and the cleverness behind the settings. Stupid things like the invisible barrier, which is so dumb, but then it ended up being like a pretty nice little comic spot and also a good point for tension. I enjoyed that a lot. I thought that in each scene there was moments to find funny. I thought it all felt pretty fantastical. The one thing that I had a hard time parsing out was just exactly how I'm supposed to connect to this. Like, because at the end of this, I got like a feeling of childhood wonder is an amazing, great thing, right? And you should clinch onto that because through this like imagination and wonder, almost anything is possible and anything can happen. You can do anything. But as I said, the other part of it, um, the story we're presented doesn't exactly fit into all those lines, and then Kevin just ends up having his parents die at the end.
We always circle back to the end. Like we
It's
always,
like, well, it's like you have like all this wonder, like all this cool stuff, and it's like, oh man, wouldn't that be so cool if this was just about his dreams and how you can do anything? And then all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, but if you imagine too hard, your parents blow up.
uh, that's a good point. We should just end the podcast with that.
If you imagine too hard, your parents blow up. Just remember that. I'm gonna go tell Dino that right now. Uh, but I guess like for me, what's hard is the story. I don't feel like it made a ton of sense. which would
No,
lend itself to a child's imagination, right? Like that doesn't really
exactly.
make a lot of sense
There's
either.
this like yeah, it's kind of hard to separate the Monty Python esquism of this and like it being a movie on its own. Like it's hard
Uh-huh.
to see one and not the other, and this especially maybe because it's like I'm not sure. Is this Terry Gilliam's first direct?
I do believe this is his first. I'll double check that right now.
And so I don't blame him for like having that like it's kind of like a bad habit. Like how do you not pull from what you're comfortable and like what you're used to doing?
Right,
And
and
so
I will just interject real quickly. It's not
yeah,
his first. He actually directed Monty Python and the Holy Grail and a movie called Jabberwocky before
okay.
this.
So he didn't have too much. He had time because Monty Python came out in '75, and then Jabberwocky came out in '77. So he had time to kind of like switch up his style and create something new. But again, I've never seen Monty Python. You have. So does this play out? Do some of these scenes in this movie kind of play out like a Monty Python?
They do to me. It definitely feels like a Monty Python movie by extension. You know, where it's like it doesn't have all of the same people and it's got more of a. It doesn't even really have more of a grand feeling because some of those Monty Python movies have a really grand feeling. It just doesn't have all the same people. It's introducing new folks into a Monty Python world that it feels very much like Monty Python to me. It's a little less stupid, and I don't mean that in a mean way. Like stupid comedy is good in my opinion. I like stupid comedy, so I don't mean that in like a detrimental way. But this has like, even if it's not a ton of logic, it has more logic in the moments of like Napoleon's not just a full on idiot. He's just obsessed.
He's fixated on his height.
Exactly. Like whereas in Monty Python, he might just be real stupid,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
that's where they would just go with it. But other than that, like the vibe I got from this film, definitely it was just it felt like Monty Python.
Like the only stupid characters who were just stupid were the evil one's henchmen,
Yeah,
and that
I
led to some like great comedy moments when like the evil one he like blasts his henchmen. Like he just basically treated his henchmen like they were less thans, and they were to him because he was able to just like get rid of them at a moment's notice.
yeah he didn't seem to care about him at all. Um, the only other character I'd say that seemed kind of just stupid was Mr. Beast.
Who was
I'm
that?
not Mr. Beast. Sorry, that's a YouTuber. Mr. Ogre.
Oh yeah, I did not like his character at all.
He was
That
just like he has back pain, but otherwise he's also an idiot.
yeah, and that's kind of what that's the kind of stupid humor I'm not into. Like it's just like this scene's dragging because that for me, yeah, that scene dragged on for way too long. I did not like that scene.
I like it. Just it didn't have any tension to it, and
Yeah, it didn't lend anything to further the story that much. Like I think they could have gone to the giant's head without like they could have easily landed on a ship and it just the ship happened to be empty on a giant's head. I think he just wanted to like keep adding stuff, and I think that's a problem sometimes with like comedy movies or not comedy movies, but maybe like these type of movies where like I don't know. Again, that scene didn't lend too much to the
yeah,
movie.
I think I know what you're saying. Like he just wanted to. He like had this idea that like, oh, dude, this ogre would be really cool in this movie, and trying to fit it in somewhere, and he fit it in here, and it didn't exactly fit. Because like, why is Mr. Ogre? And his name's not Mr. Ogre, it's Winston the
What?
Ogre, but I'm gonna keep calling
Oh,
him that. But why is
yeah,
he on a ship in the middle of the ocean? Like that doesn't, unless there's some
like
different version of mythology I'm just so
mythology because
unaware
that's
of.
what we've been playing into, right? Some like, and this could be like again going back to the kid's dream. He just has an ogre on the ship. Like this,
And
and that's
that makes
such a fail safe. That's so like an
mhm.
easy cop out for a lot of what happened in this movie. Oh, it's just a kid's dream. What do you expect? But like,
It works. It works, but also, yeah, I wish it was a little bit more than that. Like, okay, the kid has an ogre on a ship, but also, if you're gonna do that to me, we need to be a little bit more clear about what's happening right now. Like, if you're gonna like beat me over the head with anything is possible because it's his imagination, then like
exactly,
let's tie it more to his imagination. And let's
exactly,
make
exactly,
really anything possible. You know.
exactly.
Um. Yeah, and I would agree. I don't like the story was hard for me just because I didn't really care about what happened. I felt like
Yeah,
the evil genius and like the odds that were against them of him getting the map I didn't care. And I don't mean that in like a super negative way. The movie just didn't make me care.
yeah.
Um,
You bring up a really good point because when thinking about the story, I didn't feel a connection at all. I didn't really like Kevin, and so it's when Kevin being the main character in the movie is someone you have to follow throughout this movie, and you don't really care what happens to him. Like it really kind of pulls you away from enjoying the film. And yeah, I get that. Like for me, especially like I did not have a connection to many of the characters in this. While I think they did great as actors. The story did not land with me either.
yeah, and it's one of those things, like I didn't even mind Kevin that much. Like Kevin was a fine character to me, and it's okay. It's just like a difference of like what you can see in him, right? But it is the same thing. It just still didn't land, like because it wasn't tied enough to Kevin. It was we followed him throughout, but it wasn't. It didn't make sense that any of this had any meaning to him. It just seemed like it was all kind of random. It seemed like all the meaning was to the Time Bandits, but they also were so silly and over the top that I don't think there was any depth that you could find underneath their characters because it just wasn't provided. Um, Now, and for a film to be successful in this way, it doesn't necessarily need to. But my issue I have with it is like other movies that try to hit the same vein, where it's like these kind of fantasy movies that are made for kids, but also have like this fantastical special effects thing going on. I think of like The Labyrinth or The Dark Crystal, or these films, they managed to up the stakes a lot more. Like it actually feels like the stuff matters. So I don't want to give Terry Gilliam too easy of an out with all of this and saying that you just didn't make it feel like the evil genius was really going to do anything bad, because he had surrounded himself with idiots, and he didn't seem like he was himself all that really capable besides finger zapping people. And that's
Yeah,
where I really think that they needed a better villain. And I'm not blaming the actor in this one. I think it's the writing of the villain
yeah,
himself. Because the actor was fine. I think he did what they asked him to. He seemed like
yeah.
a foreboding British gentleman.
No, I would agree with that. Yeah, writing story, it just did not really pull you in.
Mm-hmm.
While there were some comedic bits, I think that's a strong point in the writing. But as far as like story connection and like writing, like things that give somewhat of a connection to like what is at stake for them, like you had said, like there's not a whole lot at stake.
The evil genius gets the map, and then he destroys the universe. But it doesn't feel that way when you're showing it to me. So what do I care?
There was this. I want to highlight at least. I know we've been kind of digging in on their story and writing, but there's, like I said, the comedic writing was good. When Randall was saying, there was like a moment in the beginning when the Time Bandits are having kind of like a back and forth, and Randall goes, "Do you want to be leader of this gang?" And then Strutter's like, "We agreed no leaders, right? So shut up and do as I say." Like,
Mm-hmm.
just,
Mm-hmm.
like I like that kind of like comedy. It's fun. It's kind of like not in your face.
That's I mean, they're definitely clever writers when they want to make a good joke. Like
Yeah,
really quick quips. It's not bad. I just think that I don't know that. I guess what I'm thinking is that the tension in this movie and like the ultimate plot wasn't as well conceived as the individual moments. Like if I was looking at this movie as an anthology of different shots being put together, I think I would enjoy the anthologies. But trying to connect them all into this larger plot work just doesn't really make any sense, and it doesn't have any driving force behind it. And I just like if Terry Gilliam had taken the stuff in this out of Greek mythology and he had just made a proper Greek mythology movie, instead of jumping all around and doing all this other stuff, I bet you that movie would have been pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and what we got here, I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying, like, I feel like he hamstrung himself throughout, and that hurts because it's just like, man, if I had a connection to this that was a little bit deeper, and like when they're jumping along the cages, if I had really felt like someone could get hurt from this, I would care so much more, and it would be so much more interesting. But like, it's too whimsical, and then it like tries to look too scary, and it just doesn't completely connect for either of those things for me.
Yeah, I thought one of them was gonna fall. I thought Wally was gonna be Dunzo. I think it's Wally who was the last one to like try to grab onto the rope.
And they're
Like,
making it look like it the whole time, but like even then, it's like if you never show me the tensions can actually happen, then what am I supposed to do?
yeah, and like that scene played out fun because the crafting a plan and then their plan works, but it seemed so drawn out because we knew at the end of the day nobody was gonna die. And even when
Mm-hmm.
someone did die, like Fidget, he came back to life. So like again, it just goes back to like there was no stakes for any of these folks except their parents. Parents were the only one who who had nothing to do with any of this. They're the ones who lost in the end. But maybe that was the final joke.
That's like ultimately that was the only thing that I can like really draw to say that like that was the most negative part of the movies. The stakes were so low,
The stakes
even
were
as
so
they were
high.
telling me they were so high, they were
They
still
undertook
so
the
low.
stakes.
You
Take
can't
these
do
stakes
that.
back to the kitchen.
You
It's
can't do that.
undercooked.
You need that tension in these movies. I don't care what sort of movie it is. If you were presenting me with the good versus evil plot, there has to be tension and the evil has to do something. It's the same reason I disrespect superhero movies is because you know at the end of the day the superheroes are going to win and it's going to be fine no matter what happens. Like
Yeah.
Iron Man died and they're still bringing him back as Doctor Doom.
Evil will find its way. I don't know. Yeah, um, you're right. This is an
um,
undercooked steak,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we need that to feel this level of excitement in watching a movie, and not just always being so like happy-go-lucky with the film.
Right. And that's it's true even of the kids. Like if there was like that thing that's keeping them on the edge of their seat, they would have watched it the whole way through instead of getting bored because Napoleon was talking too much about short people, you know?
Yeah, it's like I'm lost. This is boring. This is going on for way too long. Napoleon's too fixated on this.
And
Um,
again, clever writing throughout. So I guess I'm not really complaining about any specific scene, just that like when you mash them all together, you can kind of get lost in them.
there was a few things that I have left to say as I'm sifting through my notes. Um, One, I don't like that another dog dies in this movie. Not as bad as the ones that we watched previously. Which movie that was that? Dog Soldier. Which movie did we see like a dog get hurt?
Oh man.
Oh, it was Dog Soldier where they fucking fired a gun in the beginning of the movie. It was like, oh, I wasn't ready for that shit.
Yeah,
And
there
then
I
they
feel
did
like
it. They even want to kill a dog in this again. I don't like seeing dogs get destroyed in movies, even though I get it. Like you just made the dog go poof, and it was actually a person. It was Benson. He turned into a dog, but
right.
not a good thing for me. And then also, I don't know what the hell is a subscriber trunk dialing. The evil one remarked that he really wanted to see a subscriber trunk dialing. Maybe he knew about YouTube way back in the day.
I think that like they had these machines that you could just plug in like a series of numbers and it would like send out calls and do the robocall thing. But back in the 80s, it was called something else. It's like, that's my guess.
Okay, we'll
I'm
go with
not
that.
confident in that, but that was what I took it as.
Sounds good. I don't think anyone's gonna fact check you right now. I'm not. um, was Vermin the guy who ate the rat? Because it ties in well in the beginning. Because there's a moment where they're pressing Kevin to join the gang, or like they're like being very hostile to Kevin, and like if you don't answer our questions, Vermin's gonna eat you. And like they started threatening Kevin that he was gonna get eaten by one of the bandits.
Yeah, Vermin is the one who ate the rat. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so he does really just eat whatever because he chomped that rat's head clean off.
They made a 71-year-old eat a rat like that. It's not real, I know, but I was
Uh,
shocked when I found that guy was 71. I'm still shocked.
yeah, they hid their ages very well. uh, yeah, I think I just have a few questions. One of them, and obviously, please add on whatever you have left over to speak on. But what you kind of answered, I guess, already. But Shelley Duvall, I just completely forgot about her in the movie at one point. Um, there was a couple times where like, oh shit, she's in this movie, but it just played so like the role was there, and I just don't quite understand.
Yeah, the only thing I can think with Shelley Duvall and Michael Palin, he was Vincent, for their roles, they had to completely be just like a segue
Yeah, just
scene.
like
Like it's a joke about a couple and
keep getting like
inadequacies in romance,
yeah,
and like this is how you know we're in a new scene now is because they're
yeah.
back.
Okay,
Yeah, that's my
that's
guess, and I
interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting way of doing it. Doing scene transitions without completely doing like a hard switch up.
yeah. It feels like a skit to me a little bit, and I don't know that it was the funniest skit in the world to me, but I'm sure it might connect to someone.
And then let's see what. Do you have anything? I just have some questions for you, and that I'm ready to move on to my final thoughts.
I did want to talk about something. So at the final fortress that they go to, um,
The Fortress of Darkness, and I think that's what it's called.
they do a couple really
Ultimate
cool.
Darkness.
They do a couple really cool shots before they get to the labyrinth, right? And so like they do this like top down shot, and in this top down shot, they're looking down at the Time Bandits walking up towards the fortress, and the Time Bandits are like clearly claymation, and I just wish they had done that more throughout the film because it was a really cool looking shot, and I think it showed like Terry Gilliam is like most creative in that moment because he was using different mediums to make this work. I really enjoyed that little portion, and it wasn't much. It was just like a few brief seconds, but I remember when I saw it, I was just like, "That's awesome."
I
Um,
didn't have that, so I believe you. I have to It's when they were first walking towards the fortress.
yeah, when they were first walking towards the fortress, like after they got through the single pane invisible
Yeah.
barrier and were walking forward, um, just focus on that top down shot where they're walking over the bridge, and you can see like if you look down at them below, you can see the movement. It's definitely claymation, just with the way they moved it. So it's like a whole miniature thing is going on. Um,
Nice.
and I just thought that was really clever, and I almost wish I had seen more of that because that sort of like cleverness is what I think could have elevated this movie even without the tension. You know, if you had like made it so
For sure.
fantastical and so artistic. Um, the other thing I wanted to say that I liked is the Evil. Even if I don't think he was the strongest character, his weird like H.R. Geiger helmet that also opens up and looks like an alien tongue coming out, and like a prop from the movie Alien, was pretty cool. It felt completely out of place, but it was pretty cool.
We're talking about the evil one.
Yeah, and his helmet is weird. Like, I just call it H.R. Geiger helmet because I don't know what else to
Dude,
call it.
the evil one reminded me of like Rick from Rick and Morty. He just had like every contraption that can basically save him
Yeah,
from any type of conflict. He had like how they
spinning
do
knife
in the
helmet.
new Rick and Morty. Like Rick is just an unstoppable being. Like there's no stakes anymore. Like before there were stakes. Now he can whatever he can possibly think of, he has, and that's what it felt like because he was going against every uh, uh, you know, warrior, cowboy, archer. He had a solution
Yeah,
for
yeah.
every one of them.
It was. I thought again the solutions are pretty witty, pretty clever. Like,
Yeah, he inflated. He had a knife come out of his head. He had gas somehow. I don't know. It was weird.
I really like the design on the helmet. It reminded me so much of like Alien. And it was 100% out of place. But if you just look at the special effect itself on the IMDb page, if you flip through the pictures, you'll see this guy's helmet when it's open with the knife out. Just really cool, weird design.
Hmm.
And the other part I liked is that uh, whoever made the set design for the final bit with all the Legos everywhere and all the stuff, helping like reinforce that it was the child's imagination. I liked that, and I thought if they had added more of that throughout the rest of the movie, it would have like really tied all this in together, and then made it again feel more fantastical. Because I think that the major issue that I have with this movie is that it didn't go fantastical enough to deliver the plot it delivered. Like, if you're gonna have me go off rails and just this is what we are getting, that then the tensions don't matter. You're here for the adventure. You got to go fantastical with it. You got to go off the wall, zany. And they did that a couple times, but they needed to do it more often, as opposed to making me just laugh at people's relationship problems or people's back issues. You know, like those are kind of funny, but like not in the same way that this movie needed it to be funny.
Yeah.
Robin Hood, I'm going to give a pass because Robin Hood is like the foolish leader, and John Cleese was great, and the punching in the faces was pretty funny.
Yeah,
I can't deny that. Napoleon needed to be way more fantastical.
Yeah, he was so one note.
Yeah, and then again the ogre. So that's it to me. Is I just wanted it either needed to get a little bit more tense or it needed to get more fantastical, and it sat too middle ground between the two.
Yeah, it didn't execute either one to the best it could.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got anything else with that?
Nope. I feel pretty good. If you want to move on to ratings, I know that you got yours queued up. Hit me.
I want to ask you a couple questions before though.
Shit. Okay, let's do it.
So, did we decide? Are they just like workers? Or are they angels?
I want to say workers. Because I mean, like, okay. I'm gonna counter that question with a different question that's 100% related. Are all the people that helped design the world angels?
Like the world we live in?
And this is too much of a philosophical religious question, but that would be the answer for me. Is if you believe that everyone who built the world and worked with God and in whatever version was like an angel, then they would have to be angels. But the way they spoke to me sounded just like workers. Okay. Like they were just like, we work for this dude.
Yeah, it did sound like that, but to work with him, wouldn't you have to be in his world?
And that's the question you'd have to answer. I don't think they ever specifically said that they were angels, so I'm going to go ahead and say
Wally go. I wonder, because not Wally, was it Wally? Fidget, when he died, where did he go? Did he just go back to, like when he brought him back? Where did he go? Like where did he go back to heaven or wherever he came from or wherever the supreme being is? I don't know. Again, this movie has some philosophical like.
It invites itself to these questions just simply because of it using the supreme being.
Yeah, these like religious allegories.
Yeah, like I don't know that. I think it probably could have gotten away with a better setup for this, where you didn't have to do it. But I do think that, like, based on the life of Brian, that they like to push this button, Monty Python.
And then I guess the last question I would say, if you can make something in 15 and a half seconds, would you want it to be made in 8.5 seconds instead? And would you trust it?
8.5 seconds.
From package to meal. 8.5 seconds. Could you do it? Would you be able to eat that? Like, would you trust that? How long would it take you to trust that? I guess, would it be the one time?
Yeah, it'd probably be the one time. In my analytical mind, I want to say that no, I wouldn't trust it. And like, you have to understand your food preparation, all this better, right? But then I think some of the stuff I microwaved and then just ate and how it looked, and the answer probably is that I'd probably trust it. As far as like the timeliness goes, I feel like 8.5 seconds is almost too short, because like you can't even go grab your freaking like fork or anything while it's getting ready, you know.
But that's the power of the Moderna Wonder Major All Automatic Convenience Center at
your money, or what is it? Your money or your debt, your life. That was pretty funny. I like that a little bit. Sorry, just now that you bring it up again, I just remember the name of the game show. It's Your Money or Your Life, and
That's what. Okay.
I like the old man getting dumped into the soup or whatever it was, and just dying in there because the old lady didn't know how to answer the question.
And these time bandits have to be old as hell because they know so much what's going on, like in each time. Like they're never just like confused. Like what is this? They know what a game show is. That's why they were super excited. They know what you know Robin Hood is, and like these. I'm just wondering where do these time bandits come from? Like, what is the nature of their being?
Mm-hmm.
And how do they know so much? Have they been living forever? Like when? How long has their life been? Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions that aren't going to be answered. I'm just throwing them out there just because like this is the kind of stuff like I sometimes think about when watching these movies. Like there's more to it, but sometimes it's just as simple as just time bandits being time bandits. Where the
Mm-hmm.
hell? Oh no, never mind. I digress. I'm ready for my final thoughts.
Okay, hit me with them.
All right. If you're looking to have a blast to the way past and travel with 6 time bandits and Kevin on a historical adventure, then strap in. This is a wacky comedy that has fun set designs, fun costume designs, and some witty quips and physical comedy that may give you a couple chuckles, but at times it can feel a little campy, and by that I mean it's a bit goofy at times, and it's hard to take what's happening on screen serious, and with little to no connection with the characters, it really kind of drags the film a bit to where I'm just left wondering, oh, when's this gonna end? And luckily, I did make it to the end of this film because the ending has still left my head kind of spinning on why it ended like that. So, if this is a movie that you're into, it will be for its adventure and for its fantasy, and if not, a little bit of comedy. But if that's something that doesn't really, you know, tickle your fancy or get you interested in this type of movie, this might be a skip. And I won't recommend this to everyone, but like I said, I'll recommend it to people who enjoy adventure and fantasy. So if you want to do that, take a look at the map and sail with these bandits. I'm giving this a 5 out of 10.
All right, I think that's pretty fair. Yeah. So for this one, I have I don't write anything down, so I'm just going to speak off of what I've got here. Is like the story to me doesn't really connect with anything. I have issues with the tension. The good versus evil seems like the villain is just completely missing his ability to actually scare you. The acting I actually thought was decent. Because of the sort of movie it was. I don't want to say it was all believable, but I think it was like delivered well enough that the wit shone through the jokes that they had. I don't think any of the acting was at fault for the lack of tension or plot. So I thought the acting was pretty decent. The cinematography it ranged from fine to pretty good. And I'm gonna give the editing of this movie a pretty large boost just because of how cool I thought the costume and set designs were. Because again, if there's anything about this movie that you can really get into, it's that costume and set design. Very good. And then the sound was fine. The George Harrison song that I had heard some hype about at the end, "The Dream Away," I wasn't very impressed.
Yeah.
So I got story 2, acting 4, cinematography 3, editing 3, sound 3, so 6 out of 10. Not necessarily like a great movie. If I was like putting this in a pantheon of movies between like bad through good, it would just sit right in the middle of like, yeah,
Yeah.
you can experience it and you'll get some laughs. I don't think it'll have a lasting impact on you.
Exactly.
And that's how I already feel about it. I've watched it twice in the last 5 days, and I can kind of barely remember some of the scenes. Like, do you remember that there was skull people with robes and weird hook hands chasing after them? I bet you do now that I said it, but like, it's not very impactful. And like, for a guy who came from Monty Python and who had made movies that were impactful, it's a step back. I don't think, as far as we're talking about like Terry Gilliam for a second, just if you zoom out a little bit, it looks like he did learn.
Yeah,
And we'll likely talk about that again soon, I think.
yeah, because I'm gonna continue this trajectory because I want to complete what is known as the trilogy of imagination. So that kind of gives you a hint of what I'm going to pick next time. And then, not, just because it's available, and I like pointing this out, the budget on this movie was $5 million, and the box office was 42 million. They made a killing on this movie.
And it's funny because there's a story about this. George Harrison actually had to put his own property up for lease to fund this movie because no one else would, and George Harrison loved the script so much. So this is funded by George Harrison's personal property.
That's crazy because I'm sure he got his money doubled. He's like, all right, I really, this was a passion project, but at the same time, let me get that money now.
Right. He was probably very happy with how it came out.
Yeah, because it could have ended up bad for him, but good for George. And I'm happier to have watched it. I'm just not sure if I'll go back to watching it again.
Yeah, and that's an important statement, is just that it's not in any way a negative film to watch. I don't walk out of it being like, gosh, I wasted my time, I hated that, or I didn't like it, or it wasn't worth it. It was, and there was some cool imagery in there. It just wasn't anything that I think is that
touting and being like, I gotta tell everybody about this movie. It's the best.
They are
for a specific audience. I feel like.
Yeah, they are remaking the series now, and as a TV show, or they're remaking the movie as a series now on Apple TV Plus, but it is not starring the Time Bandits as dwarves. So I feel like they're kind of missing something here.
Yeah, because one, I actually thought that was cool because you don't see, and little people don't get a lot of opportunities to act in films, and so for them to have this is cool.
And I didn't think it was like outside of Napoleon, because you have to neglect his whole entire thing where they're just talking about height only. The rest of it didn't even matter. Like when they're on the Titanic, it's not something that matters, They were just like a bunch of goofy people.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing. That they were just a troop full of like goofy people. They all did look like they hadn't taken a shower in like 6 years.
And yeah, for them to just constantly just be welcome in any time and place that had them, and nobody kind of just like, whoa. Because it's not common you see 6 little people at the same place unless you're at a convention, because I don't see a lot of little people in my life.
Yeah, and the story behind Terry Gilliam choosing to make it little people is not like, it's not as shocking as you'd think it'd be. It's just that he lived in a little town growing up, and they had circuses, and the circuses had little people in it. So that's why he chose to make it little people. And I'm like, oh, okay.
And he's probably familiar with that world, like what works and what is like appropriate or funny. I don't know, but it keeps little people in work because, like I said, I'm sure there's a lot of the only little person I know in Hollywood is Peter Dinklage. I'm sure there's others that are like cool, but maybe not. Maybe there's not enough space for them. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know either. Yeah, let's go. Okay, so we'll leave it there. Andrew gave it a 5. I gave it a 6. We're gonna move on. So I'm gonna choose our next movie here, and this isn't the movie I had originally chosen for this time period, but because of current events, we've done a switch up. We are going to watch David Lynch's 2006 film Inland Empire, and that will be for our next podcast.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
This is his only film that I haven't seen.
Wow.
So I am excited to watch it. You know, and just, you know, given his passing, it seems like it's the most appropriate time to watch it.
Sure. Yeah, I think this might be. I gotta look through it, but this might be my first David Lynch film, so we'll see.
I feel like when we were young, you watched Eraserhead with me.
I may have, and if I did, I do not recall much of it.
I did make my. Well, we'll talk about all this David Lynch stuff on the next podcast. That'll be the opportunity because it'll be that one. So yeah, David Lynch, Inland Empire 2006. That's the next film we're going to talk about. Until then, Dead. No excuses for laying off work.
Stay tuned.
Thank you for listening to Additional Crew Film Review. If you like this content, please check out our other episodes, and otherwise, please subscribe, give us a good rating. All these things help us to be seen a little bit more. We do have a letterboxed name is Additional Crew Film Review.